This morning, you join me together as we talk about how to counter reasonable excuse in order to be counted in. And in the afternoon, I talk to you about count me in as sons or as servant. Today, now in this moment, I was going to talk to you about count me in when it hurts. It's easy to come to the Lord and say, Lord, count me in when everything is going well. But it's another story altogether when we have setbacks and hurts that come into our life. But the truth is, if you don't have to struggle for your success, there's no sweetness to it at all. Setbacks that you have, pain that you have in your life, they are part of life in itself. I remembered when I was a young boy and went through a certain hurts. Don't be deceived by my look. I am not too young as you thought I am, okay? I'm a Christian for more than half a century. I'm a Christian for 57 years, right? I knew the Lord at a very young age, at the age of 10. So you can guess all my age now, so don't be deceived by my look here. And at a young age, I saw the Lord, like many young people coming to a certain point. I'm backslided, and there was a reason for my backsliding. As I said to you, we all have reasonable excuse. I was in school and I was posted into a secondary school, and 2 years after my secondary schools, they thought that it would be good if you go into a technical school, and I chose to go down there. But that year, when I was there in my first year, I broke my right arm. I broke my right arm and I couldn't take the exam when I was in my Sec 3. And because of this, rightly, I should stay back, but they thought that my grades was good enough and they say, okay, you goes to Sec 4. But unfortunately, all while I was in the best class at that time, and this school said that I should be staying in the class that I was in. But unfortunately, at that point of time, there was a so-called assistant prefect. But he was in the other lower class, and he came and asked the teacher that, can I move up to this class? And somehow or others, the principal thought that this guy was a prefect, assistant prefect. Well, move you up to my class. And obviously, somebody had to come down from that class, and I was the one that came down from that class. Unfair. I got upset. My father was just a very simple, ordinary man. I refused to go back to the class they wanted me. I stayed in the class there. And the teacher kept on pushing me back, but I still stayed there. Until one day, they have no choice but to call my father. And my father was brought before the principal, and there was this argument explaining why they put me down here. He's a simple man. He said, okay, whatever it is, take it. But it was different for my heart. It was different because deep inside me, I felt there was injustice. But instead of getting upset with all this thing, I got upset with God. I got upset, God, why should such a thing happen into my life? If you are real, if you are there, it's not fair. Fall away from God, go about what I went in the world, search what I want. In fact, to a point, give up even my study. But somehow, by the grace of God, despite my refusal to study, I still managed to get through. But stayed inside me was this hurt. It was there for a long, long while. It was somehow by the grace of God that I came one day and I remembered while walking down this street on a Christmas Eve, right? So they're just walking by there and heard the singing of Christmas carol. And there was just a pool that drew me, and I just followed that pool, end up in the church there. And then the church, the first time, after so many years, stepped down there in that place there, and I do not know for any good reason, I just weep and weep and weep non-stop. It's just as if at the very point of time, God just take it and just pull out all the pain, all the hurts, and you just weep over it. That day was my turning point. That was the pivotal moment that turned me back to the Lord again. 4 years wandering. So I said it's easy. When I was young, I was vibrant, I was jumping around, I was excited as Nigel, jumping, running around here and there. And I remembered one day, once before, a prophet just came to me and said in Chinese, Mark, 不要跑得太快. You know, Mark, don't run too fast. Because if you run too fast, you step on toes. Right? So I remember that. I was just excited, man. But how vibrant, how excited it made me when hurts come into my life. I was not able to sustain that. All by the grace of God, I turned back, came one day to Church of Singapore, just because my sister told me, this church is different, right? The church you have always been to, straight, everybody quiet. You hear the preacher here, this is different. I said, how different? That was in the 1970s. This church is different. You go there and see. I went out there and see, wow, got drum, got music. Wow, this is really different, Wow, I just can't. But it was not different just because of that, because the next day they were having games and activities like what you all did, And they said, come, join me in this, join us. We have table tennis and all these things here. And I walked into this church here, up the steps, going up there. And with the very moment I went up there, one hairy young man, just very hairy guy, almost looked like a gorilla, but he's actually today one of our church elder. Yeah. Okay, and he came down, he said, hi, and he welcomed me. And that was the first time I realized and come to know acceptance, regardless of who you are. No differentiation, no status. Came, not only that, went to the church, joined in all the activities there. I came with a family that is poor, right? Then, after all the activities, before you have the night service, everybody go out to eat, no money in my pocket. Where I got money at all? Sit down there, don't know what to say, can't say go, but also can't say don't go. So I went along here, went down there, also didn't know what to order. Then they order those kind of meal together, and just in sitting down there, eat lah. What to do, figure out later, eat. And after that, we go back to service. They never came to ask me for money, This happened not once, it happens a few times, I also paiseh, right? But I suddenly realized here was a community of people, genuine, simple expression of acceptance of what it meant to be a believer, what it meant to be a Christian. Nothing to compare about here. That heals everything. That brought me to that stage that says, Lord, count me in. And from that time onwards, 1973, until now, I'm still counted in. Regardless of pain, regardless of hurt. And that's why today I'm going to talk to you about this. If you want your count in to last, I cannot guarantee that you will not have hurts that will come. Sometimes your hurts may come in different areas. And I'm going to talk about it. But if you know what it means, that despite all hurts, despite everything, that's not going to change my position in Christ Jesus, then you will hold on. Then you will come on and continue pursuing after God. So I'm going to talk to you, and there's one man that you need to look into if you talk about hurts. Joseph, Genesis itself here, right? Joseph went through one of the most trying moments, and in fact, if you look into his life, he went through 7 stages of brokenness. 7 stages. And each step bring him to a point as if that gone. He had a dream. He started up very high. He started up with a dream from God, God telling him what he's going to be. But the next thing is, no, he was on a downhill track all the way down. 7 times. 7th occasion. In total brokenness. I think the whole situation takes really more about 20 over years before something happened to him again. We sometimes could not understand why God allowed that to happen. But there is a reason for brokenness. It's only in brokenness that we see the beauty and the gems that come out of our character. Psalm 51, verse 16 to 17. For you do not despise the desired sacrifice, or else I would have given it. You do not delight in burnt offering. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and a contrite heart. This, O God, you will not despise. If somehow you are finding yourself in a situation of brokenness, broken unto the point everything in your world seems to have broken down, I'm saying to you, the sacrifice of God are a broken spirit. Because when we are broken, then God will use that brokenness to show forth His glory. You know, God is a God that uses broken things. It takes broken soil to produce a crop. It takes the broken clouds to give rain. It takes a broken grain to give bread. It takes a broken bread to give you strength. It is the broken alabaster box that gives forth that beautiful perfume that was used to anoint the feet of Jesus. Brokenness in spiritual lens is positive. If you know how to look it in the right way and know how to handle it rightly. Do you know it is Peter weeping bitterly who returns to a greater power than ever before? Joseph needed brokenness in order to bring out that wholesomeness. Right? There is no elevation without evaluation. There is no progress without process. When your being is being transformed, then your doing will also be transformed. Now you understand why God allows us to go through the period of the brokenness. Because in the brokenness, you will find something happen and comes out of it. And then what comes out of you, the product doing that comes out of you, will also be totally transformed. Say to you, there are 7 brokenness, and I want to share to you these 7 brokenness. I want you to capture this thing, that if you understand that 7 major brokenness is actually God's stepping stones that God used to bring Joseph to that level, then your outlook of how the brokenness is become different. They are stepping stones. They are not stones that bring you down. They are stepping stones. I want you to see how many of these you can identify with. Maybe you will realize that God has wanted to use this brokenness in your life as stepping stones. What you thought is actually bad, God wants to use that for good in your life. The first brokenness that Joseph went through was to grow up in a home where he was ignored and mistreated by his siblings. Genesis chapter 37, verse 3 to 5. It all happened because because the father made Jacob make a beautiful robe for him. And then he showed favoritism to Joseph. And the brother began to hate him and could not speak a kind word to him. I don't know some of you, whether you grew up in a home like this, you were pushed around, you were put down, you were ignored. Maybe you were even teased. Maybe you were even hated. You had a tough life growing up and your childhood was not happy. Maybe one parent liked you, but the other didn't like you. Or maybe the other one was absent or is an alcoholic. Maybe you have brothers or sisters who took advantage of you all the time. And your home life wasn't that happy at all growing up. Maybe you always felt inferior to everybody else in the home. Maybe you were the leader of the family, the youngest one, the last one, and the one they always pick on. But for whatever reason, your family origin was not very happy. It was filled with a lot of pain, a lot of competitions, or maybe even conflict. Have you ever thought that maybe God wants to use that in your life in ways that you never even thought of? Maybe God wants to use that pain in your life growing up to shape you in a good way, to be so that you will be more sensitive to other people in their kind of pain. Or maybe out of it, God wants to give you a ministry to help others growing up in a family like that. You see, God never wastes a pain. That's the first setback that Joseph went through. Growing up in a home where he was ignored and mistreated. The second one, that he was growing up being tossed into a pit of rejection. One day the brothers saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. He comes and they say, here comes the dreamer. Right? Here comes the dreamer. And they say to each other, come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns, a pit, and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes out of his dream. That was brutal. In fact, almost homicidal. They are going to kill their younger brother because they just can't stand him. They stripped him of his robe, threw him into the cistern, and the Bible says that the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. This is even more cruel. Not only threw him to a pit, but put him into that place in order to feel rejected, but there was no chance of him to survive. No water there. They didn't want to kill him straight away. If they have done, maybe they'll be fine. They just want to leave him there with water and die slowly in the desert. How was it like to be thrown into a pit, to be rejected? You probably may have gone through some of this experience. Somebody was supposed to love you, but he didn't. Just tossed you aside, threw you in the pit. We call it the pit of rejection. And they turned their back to you, and they walk away, and they left you high and dry without any resources and with no way out, with nothing to fend for yourself. And you are in that pit, and they walk away to have a dinner with somebody else. That's painful. I remembered once what it means to really to be hurt with rejection even as a child. In one of my pastoral work that I did, one day I was confronted with a very painful and difficult situation. I received a call and it says, Pastor, you need to come here. And one of my so-called members, the child did something very wrong, and it was a foreigner. It was a teenager boy, 16 years, 17 years old, got involved with another young girl, and the girl got pregnant. And at that time when the call came to me, it was already a police case. Because that day, I don't know how come the parent doesn't know that the girl was pregnant. He could have hid it or something. And that day she gave birth and called this young teenager boy, and he ran to that place there, don't know what to do, take the baby, come out, just put it in the dustbin at the lift. By God's grace and mercy, this cleaner saw it because the child is there. With still the umbilical cord there. Do you know that when you leave a child with the umbilical cord down there, it's murder? Right. If you are not a young man, it is murder. Straight down there. I don't know, I've never handled this kind of thing before here. And the next few years of court case was like dealing with this. But my heart cries out in pain. Not because of them, but because of this little child. Born out, live down there. How is she going to get up? How is she going to feel? Rejected, even at the first stage of birth. So I understand what it means to have situations. I know that it was young people and mistake coming down there, but the repercussion was so much more. But by the grace and mercy of God, in the end, the girl family was gracious enough to take it back and, bring forth this child and took it home. Right, it's a mistake, yes. But fall into stuff like this, rejection would have already been happened down there, deep there. I'm not sure whether some of you have gone through this period of rejection, even when, born out, but you were somehow rejected even in the womb. That was painful. Joseph at that point of time was only 17 years old, only a teenager. Pretty hard to have a whole family gang up on you like that. It's traumatic. But that was not only the brokenness. Brokenness number 3, being sold out for money. Brother came together and said, well, why can't we make some money out of this case here rather than let him die? All right? Let's gain something out of this here. So make some money, let's sell him off to the traders. So all of us benefit, and the other brother thought it was a good idea. The majority are often wrong. Everybody is doing it doesn't mean that's the right thing to do. Everybody thinks it's right doesn't mean that it is right. Wrong is wrong if it is wrong. Doesn't matter how many people say something is right. Morality is never determined by the majority. But this brother sold him. And the interesting thing that they sold him for 20 shekels. And if you look in the book of Exodus, it tells that slaves were sold in those days for 30 shekels. They sell him for a bargain. They sell him as if he's not even worth as a slave. 20 shekel when the slave worth 30 shekel. They sold him to traders and took him to Egypt. Things are getting worse. Now today in the business world, selling out for money happens all the time. Partners sells out partners. Some of you have partners that cheat on you or sell you out. Some of you may have bosses that sells out their employees. Managers that sell out those who work under their care. Owners who sell out their companies to make a profit. Relationships are often tossed away quickly in order to make a buck. But the greatest pain is that if it is betrayal, comes someone close to you. I told you my story earlier about my excuses, and one of the excuses was in the area of my business, and I was saying, God, No way I'm going to come out here, start up this company, 16 years, everything was good, well, from the very start, make money. I said, God, nothing is going to happen to my business. We are very good partners. And what thing that sparked me off and start to think, bring me to the right direction of where God's destiny is for my life. God, so I show you the crack. And that moment I saw the crack even in our deep partnership. One of my partners was doing something hanky-panky behind our back. 16 years, we trusted each other. I worked all the way through. I didn't even work on the accounts, nothing here. But one day, that very moment when I was confronting before God about excuses to step into the destiny God wants for me, and suddenly my eyes just opened and saw all this crack there. It was just on the surface and we never realized that. One other my experience was to someone even closer than me. Saw one of my family members having some financial difficulty. So I thought I would help, and at that time I was only just came out wanting to serve God, and just before I came out to God, and I was before I came out to serve the Lord, and my first child was going to be born. So seeing the family, the members in debt, so I said, okay, yeah, I was okay. I just put the money I gave to him. And then time came when my child is going to be born, and it's like, yeah, I need the money now, just for a while. So I pursued the money. He said, no, I'll give it back. I said, no, I really need it now. He said, okay, what do we do? Why don't you you have a car, right? I said, yeah, I have a car. This is my business. I have a car. Would you just pass me the logbook, and I will be able to, no, I will give you back the logbook, right? There's nothing going to be done. You're going to take the logbook. I will straight away be able to give you the money. I believe him. I passed him my car logbook, took it right here. Then he gave me back some money, right? To the money overtime here. Then I keep saying, hey, where's my logbook? He said, don't worry, it will come back to you. Nothing wrong. Nothing. I said, what do you do to my logbook? I need my car logbook back. He said, at that time, all it was on logbook. I said, okay, fine. So he said, yeah, I get it back. But week after week, it did not come. And one day I was sitting down and sharing with my friend, one of my church members, and said, about this thing here. And he says, and he was in the car line. He said, Mark, maybe your logbook has already been put out to land somewhere else, and your car is under lease. I said, cannot be. I didn't sign anything. How could any bank do this kind of thing? I've never signed anything. They said, don't worry. I'll check for you. Ta-da. Next week, hey, your car on lease, Oh my goodness, my car on lease. I said, I never signed anything. But your car is on lease. Wow, I tell you, I feel betrayed, feel painful, and said, what do I do? And this very good friend of mine, my church member, said, tell you what, straight away now go report to the police that you lose your log card. I went to police immediately. The bank will know. If they lend to this particular bank called, chase after this guy here. He came running to me. Hey, what did you do? I said, you told me that I give him a lockup, so I reported the room. He's in trouble. Somebody in the family. Yes, I got back my money, got back my lockup, but something happened in our relationship. Deep hurt. I became a pastor sometimes shortly after, and constantly there was this pull and this call to just, call to him, and he would come to my house. But I can't battle that betrayal. Every time when I see him, I see my car with wings flying around. Every Chinese New Year we meet, I see my car have wings. You can understand me if you had that kind of thing. Somehow that it couldn't go away. Because it was not just this occasion. Because there was one occasion that was just fine. I'm going on leave and going on somewhere here. My car can be used by anybody, fine. Just use it. You know? And I actually lent it to him. Came back 2 weeks later, I got a sticker on my door. Please report to CID. My goodness me, why report to CID? So I went to CID, sit down there. Mr. Lee, where were you? I said, on this date here. I said, I'm overseas now. Want the proof? Can. My car, my passport here show me I'm overseas. Well, if you're overseas, then you have a car. Yeah, that's my car. Then they showed me a picture. Do you know this guy? It's one of my family members. I said, what happened? Apparently, somebody is collecting, tai long, knock the door and all this thing. And my car was caught to be used as a mean to, like what you call that? You call that money lender? Loan shark. So you know the pain. All incident, my car. So you know what I mean when I sat down there every year see, how do I share the gospel? I see my car flying around. Pain, betrayal. Sometimes relationship I even toss away quickly in order just to make the buck. The brothers have the wrong motive for what they were doing. We are going to make some money out of it. So let's sell our brother into slavery. And the consequences are going to be incredibly painful to Joseph. In fact, they are going to alter the rest of his life. But in spite of the wrong things done and the wrong motivation, God somehow fitted the whole thing into a plan for good. We'll see that coming out later. Thought this is enough. Brokenness number 4. Losing his identity. Sold away like a slave into a foreign country. If you are taken away to a foreign country, it's going to erase your identity. Everybody's going to think you are dead. They know the Joseph that they know is gone. And this brother, after that, took his robe and bring back to his father. And see the word down there, they says, examine to see whether this is your son's robe. They didn't say, does it belong to our brother? They says, does it belong to your son, not our brother? You saw that identity change? You are no more a son, no more a brother, it's your son, no more a brother to us. Some of you may have your identity stolen from you, and you're still grieving about it. Do you know that you can lose your identity when a divorce happens? Why? You lose the identity as a husband or as a wife. You also lose your identity as a father if you have a child, or as a mother. Or if you lost your job, you lost your identity of what you're holding. Maybe you're a CEO of the company. You're no more. Or you have a small business, you are the owner, and you lost your business. You lost your identity as an owner. Something that you found that is you, as your identity has been taken away from, and there's nothing like your job. When somebody loses his job, it's like losing his own identity. I see people in churches in our church when Someday come back, they will retrench and all these things. You can just sit down there like a zombie. Wife before was saying that, wow, every time you go out and work, never see your face again. This time they say, please go out. See you every day. But do you know that guy down there who lose his job? What is happening inside him? He has no meaning anymore. His identity was just taken away from him. But this does not have to be the end of the story. Joseph is going to be given a brand new identity and an even better identity. But before that happened, number 5, is being forced to take a job that you don't want. I think many of you can identify with that. Sold as a slave in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials. In a matter of days, he turned from a pampered son in his father's home to become a slave in somebody else's home. Now he is doing a work he has never expected to do. He's now spending his day in the ways he never expected. And in a foreign land, he is an unwilling immigrant and a slave. Maybe you're right now, some of you are in a job that you really don't want to do. You don't like to do that. You wish you didn't have to do it, and you wish you were doing something somewhere else. And the job that you're right in now feels like a slave labor. It feels demeaning, but you have no choice. You have to take it because you need it. It's not what you used to be doing and you feel you are shortchanged. You probably can identify with Joseph and says, I didn't sign up for this. But whatever Joseph did, whenever he went, he did the best he could with what he had and do it for God. In fact, he tried to find meaning in his work that even he didn't like. He served with his whole heart, trying to honor God with good work and good character. He took the work and gave his meaning. How? By doing it for God instead of for human master. He saw God as his boss, as his master. Took every task with this attitude so that his excellence stood out. And he actually started getting promoted by his master. Wow. What an amazing character. If it is us, it would have been me. This is not what I signed up for. Why give my best? Why sacrifice for it all? But Joseph remembered his dream and continued doing it. Just waiting for the time, believing that God that he believed in is going to change the situation. But his boss wife had other plans that leads us to the 6th setback, being punished for doing the right things. Joseph was a well-built, handsome young man, and his master's wife took notice of Joseph and says, come to bed with me. But he refused. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even to be with her. And because Joseph stood to his belief, stood to his integrity, and even though this woman, Potiphar's wife, came day after day to tempt him, right? And even when he was alone, he refused to give in. And the next thing he knew, he was thrown into prison because the Potiphar's wife have the rope down there, okay, and took it and accused him. Joseph resisted and wiggled out of his tunic, but that doesn't help him, and he was ended up into. And the next thing he known, when the husband came back, she told this whole story, and he was thrown into prison. He has done nothing wrong. Nothing, done nothing in fact but serve his master. He said, my master gave me everything except you. Did the right thing, stand with integrity, and now he got thrown into prison. For 13 years, Joseph's life went down, down, down. One setback after another. From the pit to the traders, to Egypt, to slavery, and now he is in prison. None of this was his fault. He didn't cause it. What do you do when this bring you and cause this setback that you have, this pain that you have, is caused by somebody else? Somebody out there to get you. But there's one more setback. Setback number 7. Being forgotten by those you have helped. I don't know, have you been hurt from that? Being forgotten by the people, that was supposed to, that you have helped before, and probably happened to you. Wasn't there? And there was these 2 men. One is the bakers and the king's baker. The other is the king cupbearer. Had the dream come to him. He interpreted the dream. And he said to them, no, if you are released, please remember me. I was placed here not out of my choice. When I done nothing to deserve to be in here, remember me. The baker got slaughtered. But the cupbearer was released. He was released, and he totally forgot about Joseph. Totally forgot. Right? That's the ultimate setback. Even after he had helped this guy, but when he doesn't need to help at all, and this guy forgets him. I believe you help people in your life and they've forgotten that. And maybe you didn't want to expect anything at all, but there comes a time when you find really that at least you should remember, because if I'm in that state, I don't deserve this. Remember me. And when you need help, they just didn't help you back. I'm sure you identify with some or maybe a few of this brokenness that Joseph went through. Most of these and all of them combined would have made anybody give up. But Joseph never gave up his dream when he saw what God is going to do to him. Early on, he said, I'm counted in. But after all this thing, the question lies, would he still count himself in? He did. But what kept him being counted in? How did he come to that point to be able to stand up again and to come back again? 3 things we can learn from how Joseph, in spite of all this pain, still wanted to be counted in. Number 1, God's presence. The first thing that made him resilient is that he depended on God's presence. If you look at this word, and the Lord was with Joseph, if you look at this verse itself, 5 times in the Bible it keeps on mentioning, 5 times. And the Lord was with Joseph. I can show it to you all the 5 times here. Right, first time, Acts chapter 7, verse 9 to 10. Right, God was with him and brought him safely through all his trouble. Next one, Genesis chapter 39, verse 1 to 2. Right, now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph. Then you see chapter 39, verse 3 to 4. His mother saw that the Lord, when his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Even his own master, somebody who is not even a believer, can see that the Lord was with him. Genesis chapter 39, verse 21 to 22. The Lord was with him and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Someone who imprisoned him, and even this person can be able to recognize and say that, wow, God is with him. And the next one you see, The jailer did not worry about anything because the Lord was with Joseph and make him successful in all that. Wow. When you have an unbeliever himself confessing that the Lord is with you, I tell you, that changes everything. So if you want to know and find out how does Joseph was able to keep on being counted in spite of all that pain, remember, God's presence, God was with him. My question for you is God with you? Is God present with you in your home? Is God present with you in your marketplace, in the house, in your business that you're doing? That people can be able to see and say, wow, where do you get all this favor from? Was God really there with you? Wow. Presence of God. Go for that. Settle that first. Come to the Lord if you are going through all this. Come to the Lord and say, Lord, count me in. Count me in. Because your presence is going to make the whole difference. Second thing that I think is a lesson we can learn from Joseph, in spite of this plan to go on going, is his faithfulness. His faithfulness. In spite of all that has been done to him, he stayed faithful. And one very key verse is here. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. Now then, how could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? That is faithfulness, that is integrity to his master and to God. When times is tough, can you maintain that integrity? You see, faithfulness is very important. Faithfulness takes you through that process of divine brokenness. Broken, do you know what's going to bring you through? Stay faithful. Because that is what happened when he was breaking down and being beguiled, and the Lord permit that happen. He's remained faithful to his job. He remained faithful to his master. Faithfulness takes you through the process of your divine brokenness. Genesis chapter 40, verse 14 and 23. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh. And verse 28, the chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him. But somehow others may forget you. But when God don't forget you, things change. At one point, see, Pharaoh himself has a dream. I think at the point of time, if this cupbearer, the moment he came out and goes to the king and said to him, oh no, this guy here that is in the prison, something, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think the Pharaoh will ever call him. But when Pharaoh himself has a dream, it's become a totally different story. He definitely want to have an answer to his dream. And when this time was just the right time, the right moment. If you think why God doesn't just immediately answer, maybe the time was not right. But when the God's timing was right, it was straight, powerfully just gone. You see, immediately things start to happen. What I'm trying to do is very simple. Faithfulness comes before fruitfulness. Faithfulness comes before fruitfulness. If you want to see fruits, you have to show forth their faithfulness. When he becomes faithful to what he does, it may take a while, but it will bear fruit because of that fruitfulness. A farmer had to faithfully tend his crops for months before he can reap the fruitfulness. What you sow, you will reap. His brokenness has taken care, in fact, for Joseph, his brokenness has taken care of his maturity altogether. See, the greater the responsibility, the greater the foundation that God will build in you, so that he can position you for your destiny. It is your faithfulness that will make you trustworthy before God. Look into the Bible, in all the parables that you can talk about, and talks about servant and everything here. It says that, Lord, if you are faithful to what you do, God promotes. He depends on God, promise, no matter how long it takes. And he never lost that dream. Went through a whole series of circumstances and ended up being raised up to become the second in command. It's too long for me to tell you, but at the climax of the story, Joseph gets to confront his brother one day. And that comes to the third reason why he was able to continue, in spite of his pain, to be able to continue in his come to God. And it's found here in Genesis chapter 50, verse 19 to 20. And Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done. Wow. Amazing man. They intended it for bad. This is a very famous verse. If you want to make a verse as a guide for your life, take this verse. And I really recommend the Lord of you, if you want to really be able to live out the life, there are certain verses in the Bible that could be your guiding light. For example, for God so loved the world, could be a one. The other one, all things work for good to those that love God. Capture the word of God. These few days you have been going through with me here, I've been showing you word and verses. Some of these verses are guiding lights. You memorize them, you keep them in your heart basis here. That becomes your guiding light in the way you're going to live your life and sustain you through your journey whenever you meet with pain. Only one person can forgive. Only a person who has completely forgive someone can say that kind of a word. You meant it to harm me, but God meant it out for good. All the rejection, the pain, the problems, sorrows, grief is a stepping stone to where God wants you to be. All that you go through was just God trying to get you into position. You know that your past play an important role in your present life? All of us have hurts. It's not the absence of the hurts, but rather how we deal with it that really matters. Because we are all victims of our past. Some of you still have your past down there. Maybe you didn't see flying cars, but you probably see other things. If you are somebody playing with lottery, kind of thing, and one day you thought about this money and you lose your money, or they fly your number, everyday number, the number still kind of flying out, money still flying away here, right? We have all this have an impact on us. Your past had an impact. The hardest hurt to experience is betrayal. Worse, it comes from people closest to us. What helped Joseph to overcome this hurt? We saw that in the name of his two sons. Okay? You saw that in the name of his two sons. It's not there, right? Okay, right. He had two sons. The first son he named is Manasseh, right? What does Manasseh means? He says that it is because God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. God has forget all my trouble. He named it in his son, and every time when he see his son, he no more sees the flying cars. He saw the word forget. Every time he called Manasseh, forget. Forget, release. Don't let it hold it on you anymore. Wow. We need the Lord of Manasseh. Anybody named Manasseh here? I just wonder why nobody names someone here Manasseh. Forget. You can't move on. I can't move on for quite a while. Why it holds me? I can't forgive. I hear God says, forget. Every day you see Manasseh, forget. By the way, I didn't name my son Manasseh. I have two sons. No, I don't name my son Flying Car. So, I have two sons. I named one Josiah, and I named the other Jeremiah, because Josiah is a king, and Jeremiah is a prophet, and I am the priest. There's an impact on names. I find it interesting. It's impact on name there. Actually, I named them all J's because my wife is J. So all J lah. Then I am M. So I start figuring out, well, maybe good to have a king and good to have a prophet. Anyway, I'm the priest already, right? And about the other name, his other son. You see, life is not what happened to, see, basically the other son name, okay, I forgot one word that I forget to do here. Manasseh. You need to let go. Letting go means to come to a realization that some people are part of your history, but they are not part of your destiny. You got a picture? But unfortunately, many of us, these people are part of our history and also part of our destiny. Every time, remember, they are not part, they are maybe part of a history, but they don't govern you. They don't rule your life. They are not part of your destiny. Let go. Second son name, Ephraim. Because he said, it is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering. Again, fruitful. Fruitful means what? Look forward. Hope. Fruits will come out of it. Again, why nobody named Ephraim? Have I? Wow. Okay, your church is blessed. You will be fruitful. All right. You see, life is not what happened to us, but what we do with what happened to us. Have you ever wondered why your car rear view mirror is so small? Because it's not for you to look back. Don't look so small back. Look bigger in front. Look forward. Look fruitfulness. Amazing way to be able to get over. Name your children after that. And every time you say, forget, next moment, Ephraim, fruitful, fruitful. Forget, fruitful. Wow, amazing. God can transform a betrayal into a reconciliation. He can. But you need to want to do one thing. Lord, count me in. Count me in. You know, talking about names here and a way of remembering God's defining moment, I had one very unique and experience. I oversaw the time here. All right, okay, let me tell you this particular story. It was just amazing. I was one day in our sister church in Penang, and they called me along here, and I was sitting down there preaching, about to go up to preaching, and I saw this particular worship leader worshiping, and somehow others, it caught my eyes. I saw him, I see him, something. I keep on looking back. Something was laid in my heart. Then I said to myself, oh, wow, this is going to be tough. And I just turned to the elder beside him, okay, and says, oh, then the elder, I said, who is this worship leader? I've never seen him before. And the elder, without me explaining anything, said, oh, this guy, he's our worship leader. But you know what? We have been praying for him for 3 over years. He have wanted a child and have never had a child here. And prophet that came, all of us can pray fast 3 years, no child. I tell you, when I hear that, because that very moment when I was sitting down there, why I keep looking at him is because I saw that God was saying, a child for him. So, my goodness me, before I asked him anything, he tell me a prophet has come, teacher has come, everybody has come and say, 3 years, no child. So I say, well, I think I hear wrongly. Yeah, I said, I'm very clear and hear wrongly. But it came on again, I keep on looking at him, and then God began to say, okay, something is just not right. I was just troubled. And then I said to the Lord, if this is the word that's been given to him, after I give the altar call, he will come up here. And at that time, I don't even know he has a wife or not. Okay, if the wife also appear in front here and stand before me, and I pray, and I'll pray, and I will say the word. Immediately after I finished, the two of them just come to the front here. While I said, finish, I got to say something here. I just stand before them, I look at them. I'm a very careful person. I'm not like those prophets that says, "Thus saith the Lord." No. I'm very careful. I must test a bit. So I very carefully, I'll just ask them here. I don't know. I got this particular word for you, but I don't know whether that applies to you or not. Let me tell you a story. I tell him a story. Okay, I follow Nathan's style. I tell you a story, and I tell a story of how I was just a week back. I was in my church prayer meeting, and there was this sister that came in there. I keep looking at the sister. I feel so embarrassed. Keep on looking at him. And it was the word that just said that she's going to have a child. And I married them. I know them. I knew that they have not have a child there. And then I keep on looking, and then the husband came along, and at the end service, I just said a prayer to them. I said, I want to pray for you too. And in my prayer, I just hide everything, try not to say that I said, yeah, you are looking forward to a child. But I never said you're going to have a child. So I was careful. Next day, the husband called me up, Pastor, what are you actually saying? I stuck. I said, okay, since you call me, then I said to you, somehow God put you there, you're going to have a child. He said, that is precisely what is happening, because this morning, after what you said last night, we went to see the gynae, and the gynae says, your wife is with a child for 2 or 3 weeks. Wow, and I just, careful, since God showed me this, I tell this story to this couple. I borrowed here and there, I can tell the story here. I say, okay, now I tell you this story, all right? I do not know what is this for you. I don't know what it meant for you there. I said, that's what I pray for you. I said, okay, goodbye. Whether or not it happened, I going back already. Went back 6 months later, I got to come back to this church again to preach and to teach. I'm teaching the AIM course, and I'm teaching on Proverbs. Right. Just before I start, the wife came in, stomach like that. 6 months pregnant, she come out like that. Then the elder, all they were laughing because it was planned that they want to come in here to show me that this thing happened. They were laughing behind there. It happened now. I said, it happened now. It happened and it was there. 3 months later, in January, I think it's the 5th of January, she gave birth, and she sent me a message. Pastor Mark, the child is born. I forgot now whether it's girl or boy. The child is born, and we named him or her Proverbs. I teach that proverb. I said, you named them Proverbs? Nobody named Proverbs. Why Proverbs? It's already been about 4 years or 5 years or so over the COVID and everything here. I have not seen Proverb yet. But I want to see Proverb. Because Proverbs showed to me something that happened that has impact of how I see God works. You know why names becomes that important here? Amazing thing of this God. In spite of your pain, in spite of the struggle, He changed it and transformed it. I do not know what setback or what pain that you have gone through in your life. I don't know what is it, but I want to ask you 3 questions before we end this. Number 1, will you depend on God's presence? You sang this song just now. No matter where you are, will you, like Joseph, depend on God's presence no matter what circumstances you may go through? Number two, whether it's in the pit or in the prison or in the palace, will you remain faithful no matter how long it will take? Question number three, is there someone in your life you need to forgive? Are you willing to transform a betrayal into a reconciliation? Think about this. Pray about this, yeah? And I just want this moment just to close in prayer here. And if I can have the musicians come out here, I just want you to sing that song that you all did just now, the one with the present that thought it was beautiful here. And I felt a call now to just make this invitation. Knew the first night I did that, right? Some of you come up. I'm not saying that I've got the answer for what you're having, but I'm asking for a response. You have 4 sessions with me, and it's not about me. It's how are you responding to God? God calls for that response. If you feel the Lord has been speaking to you, coming to you, pulling you, be it because of excuses, be it because of pain, in spite of the pain, be it because you find that something is drawing you far away and there's this pull coming to you, and then there's feel a tug there in your heart, a pull to say, come back. Count me in again. Count me in again. If that word is coming to you, you just can come out here, as we sing this song once, two, and then just respond. And after that, as quickly as you are, only I'll pray as much as I can here. Then I would like to release it to you and see what God's going to do here. Is any one of you here say that you just want a touch of God in your life? A touch of God, that God's power, you just descend upon Him as you descend upon Elijah and empower you, or to be filled with the Spirit of God, or true, you can just come out here. Some of you need healing, be it physical healing or be it healing in the spirit, healing in your heart, healing for that pain, right? You can just come out here and let God touch it to you, and just allow God to just speak it to you and touch your heart.